Hello, everyone. We'll get started in just a minute. I want to give everyone a chance to kind of pile on in. We already have over 50 people in this webinar. We got a lot of people registered today. We got really excited to show you what's in store. Just give it another 45 seconds or so and we'll get started. All right. So we are so incredibly excited to show you what we have in store today. It is my honor, on behalf of everyone here at Concordia Technology Solutions, to introduce to you the new Church360 Ledger. The Church360 Ledger is a lot different than the software you remember. A lot has changed. So let's hit the ground running. For those of you not familiar, Ledger is a financial software built for the church office. It's built specifically for treasurers, pastors, busy volunteers, and it's built because we believe in supporting your ministry with technology. So, really quick outline. Really quick outline of what we're going to be covering today. So first and foremost, we're going to go over a couple key people and assumption that it's good to know to understand, who's involved with this project. Then we're going to go through a little bit of Ledger overview for those who are not super familiar with the product. I'm going to give a really quick overview to some of the new pieces, and then we're going to dive right into a full kind of demo tour of the new software. Then I'll wrap it up with a couple final words, and then we'll go to Q&A. So let's get moving. So key people here. So one is Concordia Technology Solutions. It's so incredible that I get to be part of a team that is full of called church workers. Many of us on our team are pastors. I am not, but I get to see just the amount of care, passion, and dedication all of us bring, but specifically those that are so familiar with what the needs of the church are. We think that's an incredible value add that we bring to the table. Linda can't. I'm so sorry, Linda. You can't get the sound to work. And that being said, it's something that is relatively unique to Concordia Technology Solutions. The fact that we have so many people in the church office that work here as well. So I'm your host, Rob Davidson. I'm the manager of CTS Sales and Marketing. I've been here for, I'm coming up on 2.5 years working with all things CTS. And most importantly, the key person for this webinar today is your church. Your needs are our priority. Everything we do is for your church. And so we hope that when you look at the solutions that we provide, it is entirely focused on helping you in the church office, whether that's get more done or be a better communicator to your congregations, or in this case have more control over your finances. All of the products that we create is built to help your church. So, and one more group of people to mention is our team of software consultants. These guys are incredibly top notch. Those of you that have worked with Grant, Calvin, or Dave know that they care so much to being a support system for you and your team. So as you start to explore the new software, you start trials of Ledger, they are going to be reaching out and making themselves available to you to answer any questions you have, as well as just to be kind of a friendly face along the way when you're navigating something new. So you can reach them right now at the number and email provided. If the guys aren't able, because they're on the call with another customer, if they don't, you can't get in touch with them now, they will be in touch with you within 24 hours, if not sooner. So moving forward, a couple assumptions before we get into everything today. So one, you're here because you're curious. You might have heard of Ledger or Church360, or you're curious of what's changing in just the Church360 world, and you're here to kind of hear more. You also may be searching your current solution for managing your church finances and accounting isn't ideal. Maybe it's too expensive, or it's not focused enough on church specific needs, and you're seated here if we meet your criteria for being a good product. We're also going to assume that there's a good chance you're on the small to mid-size church range, which means that your resources might be limited. You can't afford to pay QuickBooks almost $1,000 for an accounting software. So you're always on the lookout for how can you be a better steward of your church's finances. And then finally, this one's really important. I'm not an accounting professional. I've only had my hands on the software for a couple weeks now, now that it's been finally put together. And while I have spent a ton of time familiarizing myself with this software, because I'm not an accounting professional, I might not perfectly explain something. I might not fully understand a nuance that those of you with professional backgrounds see. So one, I apologize ahead of time for being a bit of a fool, but hopefully the glimpse that I show you today, and then working deeper with our teams that are much more just hands-on and knowledgeable about the software, I'm sure that we can answer any questions that you have, either in the short term or following up this webinar once I do some fact finding for you. So next thing, so let me make sure. Now that all that is out of the way, let's dive into Ledger. As you may know, Ledger is a part of the Church360 suite. Some of you may have members or Unite. You know that Church360 does a lot. Everything from helping you manage your people data, your offering, to if you have Unite, it's your website. It's how you make visitors aware that your church is in the town you're in. And of course, Ledger is what we're going to be talking today, but you might see some overlap with where Ledger connects with other pieces within the Church360 suite. So while that's all well and good, software is here to solve a problem. And, that leads us to ask, what does Ledger solve, right? So as I've alluded to, churches have very unique financial and accounting needs. I know all of you know this. Not every business out there is taking offerings or has to operate with so many volunteers. Most solutions fall short meeting those needs and create more work than they should. I've used QuickBooks myself. It's incredibly confusing sometimes. So whether you're using QuickBooks or a never-ending pile of Excel spreadsheets, or whatever alternative, there's a chance that your solution is lacking. Your church deserves something that meets all of your needs. And while Ledger might not be perfect, it does a lot. And so typically I'd run through each and every one of these, but it does a lot. We know it does a lot. And I know we're all excited to get into the new stuff. So I'm going to skip ahead and talk about just in general, Ledger now more than ever before. It's accessible, it's web-based, it's powerful, it's straightforward, and it's secure. It gives you the tools you need to manage your church finances while also understanding those in your congregation who it impacts. You can see, we have unlimited logins, but you can see all the changes that are made in the software for those that you give access to it. You can create very unique logins in order to just kind of carve out certain parts of the software so that not everyone can see everything. We want you to have a secure software, but one that is easy to use while being incredibly powerful. So you can, I hope, start to see that Ledger helps you manage a lot while saving you potentially hundreds of hours per year if you're doing this work manually. Like, a lot of my job is compiling different spreadsheets. And if I had a solution that brought a lot more of that work together, that would save me so much time. And so what we've tried to do is create that for the church office. So before we get into the new stuff, one thing I want to touch on for those not super like me, not accounting professionals. So Ledger uses cash basis accounting basics, right? And this was all foreign to me, but just a very quick overview. You're going to see a lot of terms floating around. Four of the very important ones are assets, income, liabilities, and expenses. So assets is money that you actually have. It's based on the totals you have in your accounts. Liabilities are dollars you owe someone else. I have a mortgage, right? So that could be a credit card bill, a mortgage. It's money that I know that I will have to pay someone at some point, right? Income, that's money coming in. I'm sure everyone understands that one. It's recognized in which the point it's received, whereas expenses is recognized when it's paid. It's money going out, right? We all wish we had less of those, right? So let's get into the new stuff. So really, really quick, I'm going to show up some screenshots and then we're going to start the demonstration. So we have completely updated the interface. As you can start to see here, Ledger lives somewhere else now. We have completely reworked the main dashboard and navigation. It's both easier to find everything while also giving you a more tactical view of everything going on within your church's finances. And we have revamped restricted funds and equity-backed funds, and we've created a land with those that are coming over from Shepherd staff. It's easy for them to migrate and get rocking and rolling with Ledger, while as it's allowed the world of how we did things in old Ledger to be able to fully function just like it did before. While there will be a few changes, our developers and support team have done an incredible job at making sure that we can kind of create the ideal accounting software for churches. And finally, while I am still learning how to use it, we have an incredible new custom report writer that I'm going to talk about toward the end of the demo that really gives you more control than ever before to build custom reports for your church finances. We know we have been looking at feedback for years, and we're finally at the point to provide you something that so many of you have been asking for, is to have the ability to build custom reports when a church council committee member asks for something specific, shown a specific way. We're giving you so much more control to be able to mold that data to tell the story that you need to, so that people can understand all that you know when you're managing the church finances. So it's time for our demo. Let me pull out of this, and then let's see if I can pull this off. All right. And 1, 2, 3. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it here. It seems like everyone can see it, or at least I can on my screen. All right, so this is Ledger. And let me scroll down through my notes here. key term slide. Great. Okay, so really quick before I start just throwing so much more at you, I want to make sure that I had a couple of notes here that I want to make sure I say. Um, I'm going to do my best to balance diving very, very deep with the software with giving you a cursory overview. If you want to dive really, really deep, that's what setting up a free 37-day trial is going to be for. Obviously, our teams are going to be available to support you in that, but in the interest of time today, as well as having some time at the end to answer questions, I'm not going to go crazy deep. And then, yes, so as you can see, Ledger has moved. Now Ledger lives in the same place as Church360 members. Those that have members will be able to easily toggle back and forth between the two. Those that don't have members will only see the version of members that is available to those with a free trial of the software. So effectively, that's mainly just being able to see people data, and that's essential for setting up payees and other things that I'll show later. You do not need to have members to now have Ledger. Just like before, if you just subscribe to Ledger, Ledger is what you get. It just lives in a new place. For those of you booting up the new Ledger for the first time, you're going to see a screen here with 3 different options on how you want to start using the software. You can bring in data from your old Ledger account using your church's subdomain. You can migrate Shepherd staff data, or you can just hit the ground running without any data conversions. Ledger customers also, really important to know, those of you that currently subscribe to Ledger and are interested in migrating to this new landscape, you can work hand in hand with our support team, and they're going to make sure that the process goes incredibly smoothly for you, and they're already ready to start helping people transfer at your convenience. And again, as I've mentioned, those that don't have Ledger can work with our software consultants, and they'll do the same while also kind of answering those questions that first-time customers have. So, other small note, and then I'll get into it. Admins will need to migrate each relevant user in set role that you had in previous Ledger into this new one. Your login credentials will be the same as the ones that you use to access members if you have a current member subscription. Otherwise, you're good to kind of set things up all anew. So with all that out of the way, let's dive into Ledger. As you can see, the main Ledger view is nothing less than new and improved. Account balances right here at the top. Here, there we go. Now I have a mouse. The account balances here, they show what we are calling the accounting equation. So what we wanted to do is, while we're introducing the ability to see, your equity accounts and how all of it impacts each other, we wanted to show it in a way that was incredibly factual on how the accounting math worked, while also being really easy for people without that background to understand. So you can see here that you have your assets, which equal your liabilities plus the equity plus any funds, and we're going to get into funds a little bit later, plus income minus expenses. So you can see that all here. And I tell you, our team did such a great job with this. Also, just like in old Ledger, you have a book switcher. If you click this, you can jump in and change the book you're in. So in our previous demonstration, I set up this VBS account, right? And I can easily jump back to kind of our main demo environment. So easy peasy. If you have a school or a preschool that you want separate books for, very easy to do that in Ledger. To do items, so that's a new place for an old thing. So you can see here that we have a couple items that the software is calling to attention. So we have 10 checks. If I click this, it'll pop up on the side view 10 checks that are ready to print. Go ahead and X out of that. And then if I click this, I have 2 pending transactions to review. So these, as you can see, are offering batches. So those of you that experienced the land before new ledger knows that it would connect with members. And so when you were inputting contribution, your offerings and donations, etc., into members, it would automatically flow over into ledger. So now we've created kind of the way to do that, but it's much more streamlined since everything's in the same place. And again, I'm going to go deeper into this later. This is just kind of giving you a feel of all the moving pieces here. We also have some at-a-glance charts here for you to see income and expenses and how they compare to year-to-date budget, the difference, and percent of difference. And then for those of you that are heavily using funds, and again, get to that later, you can see your account balances for your funds here as well. All right, and before I dive even further to the tour, something that has been incredibly new and improved is our global search feature. So now we have a way for you to explore Ledger in such a more powerful way than ever before. So you can see here that I click that search button, and up here we have a view where I can toggle different aspects of the software depending on what I'm trying to find. And that can be as easy as me typing in electric, boogie woogie woogie. Oh, and here I am. I clicked enter and I shouldn't have. So I typed electric, and you can see anything that would be related to the word electric has been pulled up. Even more so, if I just put in 49, it's going to pull up every item that has 49. So you can see 49 here, 49 cents. Again, if I just had that small piece of information, it would refine the search results, allowing me to start sifting through to see what I need. And I could make that even easier if I filtered down to transactions or what have you. So, jumping back. So for those of you familiar with Shepherd Staff dedicated accounts, they are now what we call equity-backed funds. So I'm going to go over to the chart of accounts. So brand new chart of accounts view. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom because I just want to get this math out of the way before I show anything else. So you can see here I created a mission fund number 2, and it's made up of equity, expense, and income. All of these get compiled together. That then is shown here. So this amount matched what was shown both here and then in the chart of accounts when you add those 3 sub-accounts within funds, right? So the way when I was talking to the team, I was like, okay, so when I'm explaining this to now over 100 people in this webinar, how should I explain this? Like, why is this of value? And so how it was explained to me is that the purpose of funds is money set aside for a purpose. That's why I called it mission fund. So there could be a reason why, hey, I want to set this money aside. It needs to have its own kind of income and expense equations because we're putting really careful attention to what's happening to this fund. Not to say that you're not doing that with the rest, but you really care about how the income, expenses, etc., relate to each other. So let's jump back to chart of accounts. And you can see here that this is a very established demo account. So those that have seen it in the past, you know that we've been using the same demo account for years. So as you can see, we have a lot of accounts here. So I'm sure that there's going to be a level of this that's trimmed down when you are navigating this for your church. Or maybe I'm just wrong and y'all have 4 times the amount of accounts. If so, more power to you. But you can see here that things are being grouped. So I have that kind of within assets, and then it breaks it out. And I can see everything that's broken out between different funds and checking, savings accounts, etc. So those of you that are familiar with old ledger, you would know that we used to sort things by categories, and then accounts would sit underneath categories. You can now see that, right? While they don't have money themselves, it's a roll up of everything underneath that category. So we call those the categories are now parent accounts, and child accounts are everything that is a real account that has money in it, or is kind of what you've carved out to be as part of the whole. Diving in, let's give us a feel for kind of some of the things we've changed. This is the archive button. I don't want to mess with anything here, but I'll be demonstrating that later. You can also edit. So if I click that, it'll pull up this kind of slide out view where I can add the account numbers for kind of easy tracking, and kind of change some of these core pieces and where it's located. I can also click the reorder button to change what order everything is in. So again, I don't want to mess with that because, again, I'm new in town. But I do want to show you a little bit of what's now inside the chart of accounts. So we've given you the kind of an inside look to be able to drill down and look a little bit deeper on what's moving inside these journal entries. So in preparation for our webinar today, I made a couple journal entries, a deposit, a journal entry where I'm moving some things around. So you can see here, this is a journal entry, and this is the mission fund one. So I'm moving things to the dedicated mission fund 2. So that was what happened here. And then I made a couple deposits, and that's all happening within this checking account. What's also neat is our new charts function, where kind of the old ledger was a little bit clunky. It was good, but it wasn't great. We've now dialed it up for you to have a lot more of a clear picture. And I always know that printing things was an issue back in the day. That's now every single view in Ledger, for the most part, is super easy to print. Secondly, we have this ancestry view, which allows you to kind of jump up and down through different accounts really, really quick. And you can see that I'm jumping into different accounts and sub-accounts and categories. And that just gives me kind of a better view of all the different pieces. And again, we want to make things easy, we want to save you time, we want to make things fast when it matters. When it comes to printing, again, like I said, you can print pretty much everything. You can also export a lot of these views. And so this is kind of a chart of accounts view, and then super easy to print out. Okay, so what's next? So those of you that are familiar with Ledger knows that, hey, we have recurring transactions. So you'll find them here. In the general ledger, you'll find within whatever date range the different transactions. So if I widen this out a little bit, and by a little bit, I kind of mean a lot, you can then see everything that's going into this time range that we've had kind of populating in the software. So you can see this includes checks, deposits, transfers, journal entries, you name it. Each one of these transactions I can drill down into. So that gives me a little bit detail on a first click, and then I can hit the caret here to pull up this specific one. So if I go back to this and I find one that actually would be helpful in this demonstration, great. Okay, so this is our internet bill that we've been paying to AT&T. And you can see here there's a lot more going on. So you can kind of see this is the variance in funds that have happened over X period of time. You have memos, check numbers, etc. for the specific transaction. But then down here we have related transactions of everything that's been paid, either related to keywords or the payee in question. So I can then jump over to internet because right now I'm in, let's try to find it. I'm just in kind of an internet bill, internet for June. There we go. and then I can jump to internet for May. Here you go, looking at the same thing. Different amount though. All right. And then just like in Ledger, we have lots of different ways to do transactions. We have streamlined the process a little bit, cleaned it up. So if I did from mission fund the checking to mission fund to equity, and I debited 200 and I credited 200, and then I just add the dates to today, hit save. There we go. Boom. That easy. So again, if you want to break things out, you can always divide this up and get more detailed if needed. Again, we want to give you that control, but we also want to make things streamlined when that's not necessarily needed. Going through my notes. And I've already shown in the general ledger how everything's expandable. So let's move on. Budgets. Okay. So those of you that depend on having a budget in your church, which is a lot of us, you may be familiar with the old way to do budgets within Old Ledger. So you would have this entire view and you would click into each one and edit it. We've made it a little bit smarter. So if I click into anywhere, it'll pull up that section. So I clicked into the youth fund. And now what I can do is I have a couple more tools at my disposal when it comes to populating this information. So if we had a prior year budget, so let me jump. I want to be able to do everything. So let's do this. Okay, great. So what I can have here, I have right now a bunch of stuff that we've already put in the software as this year's budget. If I wanted to change that and pull from the previous year's budget, I would just click this button here. And then you can see everything changed. In the same way, if I want to change it to the prior year actuals, hit this button, and boom, there we go. Everything flowed over from the information that we have here, saving you precious minutes in the church office. Also, even after doing one of those things or putting in my own numbers myself, I can adjust the information. So if I want to increase everything by 20%, which would be good for you, Phil, all right, you can see everything changed. Now, if I only want to add $5 to everything, I could click this button and you can see that populates. And then they could also set all the information to one number, click it, and there you go. So what this also is going to do is help you streamline the process when you're doing this in bulk, maybe at the start of the fiscal year. So if hit save and continue, pay attention to this general fund label here. Click this. Now I'm in the building fund. Super fast, super easy to get all your budgeting done, spending no more extra time than you need to. Soon we're going to have the ability to, when talking to my team, to import from a spreadsheet your budget. I know that was a feature that we had in Old Ledger, and so we're making sure that nothing's lost in this transition, but it might take a couple weeks or so to finalize some different pieces. But rest assured, when big things come out, you'll know, or you'll see it in the software, depending on how essential it was. So before we go over and show that custom report writer, I want to jump into settings a little bit. And as you can see here, like in members, we're our setting in the new navigation. Again, this button pops it out if you didn't know. This is the settings button or cog right here. So I'm now in kind of the general settings for everything Church360. If I scroll down, this is the ledger section. So I can click this and I can see my books here. So this is where the archive button. So let's say VBS is over and I'm going to archive it right here. There we go. Archived at August 27th. We got a timestamp and everything. It's fantastic. I'm going to unarchive it because we're always going to have VBS. If I want to dive a little bit deeper into our book and kind of the settings involved, I click the caret and I can see all of the the current fiscal year, what that date range is, when it ends, as well as I can lock and unlock previous fiscal years. Payees is pretty new. We used to have it in the old software. Now it's a little bit smarter. So along here you see the names of each different one that we have built in the system so far. You can see the type switches between business and individual. I was told by my team that at some point I think we're going to have indicators for those that need 1099s at the end of the year, which is super cool. If I want to add a new payee, I click this button, and you can see we get this really nifty slide out view that I can toggle between business and individual. So as you can see here, there's this connect to button loading people. Well, that's interesting. We used to not be able to do that. So now that it's loaded, I'm going to click this, and you can see here, this is a list of names of everyone within your Church360 members people database. So let's say our good friend Dave Abbott did some work for us, whether that's, let's say he was consulting on some IT stuff, and now we got to we're giving him a little bit of cash, and so that means we need him in the system. And look at this, all of his information that we previously had is populated automatically. So then all I would need to do is add a description, IT consulting and system setup, right? And if I had his tax ID number, I'd put it here. Dave helped us troubleshoot issues in our church office computer network. That means something, right? And then I'm going to hit save, and then we can see here that Dave Abbott, IT Consulting and System Setup, is now in the software. So whenever I need to pay him as a payee, he will then appear down in the list, whether or not I'm sending him, what's it called? I'm getting a deposit from him or whatever, a check. There we go. That's the word I need. What other, have I hit everything in this section? Oh, the event log. Okay, so this is, coming from a background that's not super financial, I get nervous about, hey, we're going to have this really important information. And if we have a couple other people using the software, of course I trust them, but it's very much a trust but verify kind of situation. And so having the event log is really important. So this helps you for personal auditing and security purposes by showing you every little movement that happens within the software. So as you can see here, right now at the top, I could sort by date range, search for a keyword, or filter it by modules. So those that are familiar with members knew that, hey, we could search for movement in people and events, right? That's not crazy. We even have some flow through from our support manager, Rod Kyles. He was doing stuff in Unite, and that's what that icon is for. So, but now Ledger lives in this environment as well. So as you can see here, every time my username, Kent Williams, who's our pastor of our make-believe church here, every time he does something in the system, we're getting a timestamp. So when I added Dave Abbott to the payees, that was done here. When I have a journal entry that was made for $200 that you all saw me do, that created there. Sometimes it also has links that after clicking, I can jump straight to that transaction. So again, this helps you be able to see everything that's happened in the church. If you're like, what's this Rob guy doing depositing $200 to the fund? I didn't know that was happening today. You can now check it and make sure everything is being done correctly. So with all that being said, one last thing I want to show everyone is how things work between members and Ledger. And so those of you that are familiar with members are really familiar with adding offerings. So right here, I'm going to make a new batch of offerings. I'm going to click a Sunday because that's when events happen. And it's the Sunday morning service. I'm going to add it. All right, and I'm going to add some loose offerings here. And then Dave, what a great guy, he's giving us a check, right? Check number 1. And, oh, I gotta, Rob, you know how to do this. And, we'll do Lacey also did kind of an online giving for $45. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, and again, I don't want to kind of go through all the members for us today, but you can see here this is all totaling down into the general fund. I could change funds if I needed to. What if I put all of these into the mission fund, because that's probably where I'm going to end up putting it. And save. Oh, I have to hit save. Here we go. Okay, so you can see all of this is going to the mission fund here. All right, then we see this new button up here that says post to ledger. I'm going to click it. Post to the ledger. Great. Go back here. You can see these check marks on the side show you what's posted to ledger and what's not. So now I'm going to go back to ledger, and what was 2 is now 3. We can see that this offering batch today, $345 was given. This was the date of the service. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this button, and we're going to deposit, and we're going to add it to the mission fund, right? And there we go. And then what account? I have a mission income account. There we go. Hit save. Date can't be blank. Again, we make sure that no one makes mistakes, even when you're on a webinar with 100 people. And there we go. Changes are saved. And then you can see here, this is the impact from the transaction. So, all right, let's jump into the new report section of the software. So, this is going to be so cool. So, as you know, there are a lot of standard reports that you probably need in the church office. We have a couple that come canned right out the gate, ready for you to use. So I'm going to show those first. So first off, we have a balance sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and click the caret here, and it's going to pull it up. So, and as you can see, as the data loads, you have this beautifully created chart here that shows you different values depending on your starting balance, ending, this year debits, credits, change, percent change, you name it, all ready to go. So this would be used if you're like, hey, I need this. This is going to be ready to rock and roll. Even if the values are changing, right? The structure is reliable for you to go to without having to set it up yourself. Jumping back, we have, as you saw, chart of accounts. And so you can see kind of a similar but different build out here. Okay. Then we have check register. You can see these are the different checks that have been written and from what account. We have the general ledger. This is going to be a list of transactions of different kinds. And there we go. So a lot of stuff that we've been doing. There we go. So there's that 345 that we just deposited from net offerings received. You got payees where that data has been inputted, right? Super cool. And then we have statement of income and expense here. Again, budget, actual, etc. Right? Okay, this is great. But what if I have really unique needs when it comes to what this could, what my reporting is? So I'm going to show you one that one of our manager developers put together. So this is the awesome column, the year to date, and less awesome. So there we go. So again, you can see that you can get pretty creative, but let's go ahead and build one ourselves. So I'm going to show webinar test account or report. This can be seen by others. And I'm going to add a section. So first up, I'm going to add a section for text. So in here, this would be an introductory section to talk about the information that will be displayed below. And I have one typo because who can spell introductory? Great, now I'm going to add another section. Let's go ahead and show a ledger section. We're going to pull out this filter button, and then we're going to hit edit, and I want to look at specifically the mission fund. So I'm going to hit update, and there we go. I can see the movement that's going, and I want to see everything here. But let's say I don't want to see journal entries, so I'm going to pull that one out. And then payroll is not needed because we can't see it. So there we go. And then I'm going to add one more section. So this is the account section. All right. And so this is where we got even more ability to mold this as we see fit. So you can see here that I can control the different assets, incomes, funds, etc. So if I wanted to pull out expenses, we're all seeing it. It's coming out from the back, and we aren't seeing it. So if we see assets here, I unclick it. Look at that. Get rid of the mortgage. We don't want to see the mortgage. And then we can also change the chart depth. So what that means is right now at 5, it's showing us the deepest amount of depth that we can have, whereas I can fold that in a little bit to say 2, and you can see it's consolidating accounts and less sub-accounts. I also have summary information that I could include summaries, I believe, at the bottom here for assets. But what we need is we also need to display some information because right now we're just kind of moving some rows. So I'm going to add budgets. We're going to do for this year and leave name dynamic this year budget add. Okay. You can see some stuff here. And if I do actuals, this gives me information. Yes. All right, cool. So you can see here that we have some more money, and then we have that summary there at the bottom. What if I want to show some differences? So if we do the difference between, let's get this right, this year budget and this year actual, add, oh, and I got it wrong. So, okay, so come on. So in this column, I want this year's, there we go, I got it. I want to do this year's actual minus the budget update. Great. I wanted the correct numerical values. And then we can see here that this is the difference. So those that have the this year budget one, we can then kind of see that equation at work here. All right. And then if I wanted to add percents, starting and ending balance, etc., how far or ahead or behind we are with that budget, I can add those columns in. And then effectively, when I'm all said and done, I can hit save. And the webinar test report is available for viewing. I can make it a favorite or not. So you can see here, little star. And then if I want to review all this pertinent information, I can export it or hit print for easy display. So again, super powerful if you have someone who really knows what they're doing. All right, is that everything? So one of the things that I've missed is, I've talked about security a bit. For those of you that might not be familiar, know that members came out with a brand new security feature called passkeys, which is kind of an additional upgrade beyond multi-factor authentication. So now Ledger benefits from this increased security as well. Um, every every view that you see in Ledger, I think except the budget one, is super mobile friendly. So if you're needing to check on your church's finances from your phone, you can totally do that. We're going to have some payroll integrations coming out soon. Paycor, our preferred partner, and Paychex integrations are going to be coming, and you should be hearing from us once that's released. And then Ledger Help articles are now live in the Members Help Center. So for those of you that have migrated, you can go ahead and, just like always, hit that I, and like always, it's going to pull up suggested articles based on what you're currently doing in the software or where you are. But then you can also, you'll be taken in the Ledger section to the now Ledger area in Members, right? And then if you search for manual, you'll find this page, does Church360 offer an online manual for Ledger? And it's this like 134 page document that I might have been using to prepare for today that goes through all the different pieces of the software. It's an incredible resource that our teams prepared for us. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the presentation, say a couple of final words, and then we're going to go to Q&A. Real quick. So that's Ledger. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. I really encourage you, those that have found that this was, something worth trying, please start a free trial. It's 37 days free. You're going to have a team that you can kind of lean on to help kind of answer any questions and really get the software running to see if it's a real fit for your church. You can use the shortcut 360ledger.com. It'll redirect you to the product page, and then you'll see a button at the top that says start free trial. You fill out the form and you'll be off to the races. Make sure you're paying attention to your email. Our team of software consultants are going to be there to answer any questions you have, and they might be even reaching out just to make sure that the transition is really, really smooth. So, and here is their information if you need it again. Okay, so now that we've gone through everything, I want to open things up for Q&A. So in your view, you should see a question section. Can I import a logo to use in my... I'm going to have so many that I'm going to need to follow up. All right. So let's go here. All right. So JD Bacchus, he asked, if we currently use a different company than Paycor, will there be a way to integrate? So I believe there could be a way to manually input that information in case you are using a different payroll provider. Right now, all we're going to be able to support is Paycor and Paychex when it comes to a direct integration. When will the transition take effect for current users? So right now, we are not going to force anyone to change. That will eventually, I would say, I think we're shooting for a year or so. I encourage people to make the transition as soon as possible, especially as we approach the new fiscal year, because that's where everything new is going to be. That being said, we understand that church finances, it can often be very stressful, and we don't want to create an additional amount of stress for you. And so with all that being said, like there's not going to be kind of a push out the window moment for a long time. Right now, you can get access to this. So if you start a free trial, you can get access to it now and start experimenting. And that even goes for if you have a current Ledger subscription, we can set you up with new Ledger so that you can kind of start kicking the wheels. Wade asks, can I import a logo to use on my reports? I know that you can add a logo to your, what's it called? On your church. I'll have to follow up, Wade, to make sure that we can do that after the fact. It could be more of a like you upload it to Canva or something and add, but I'll check for you. You may have already, Louise asked, you may have already answered this, but is there a full import option from Shepherd Staff so I don't lose my data? Yes. We have now created the way to directly pull everything. You just take your finance module backup, and put everything into Ledger. A similar process is for the member side. All of your Shepherd Staff stuff can move into anything, because I know Shepherd Staff is very extensive. Anything that can be done in members, you can move that data, your people data, contribution, attendance, right? All of that can be moved over. Oh, sorry, JD Bachhaus. David Petrie, can you explain further what is equity and funds? From what I could tell, your definition of funds is actually an asset. That would probably be correct, except that assets are being totaled on the back end. So I think it's more for the equity, liability, and expenses to be applied to each other independently from the rest of your equation. For those that have more questions there, our support team is going to be better at explaining that. A lot of questions. Maybe I missed it, but is there a time frame for when we're going to have to switch? Not a direct time frame right now. For you to kind of have a mental note, I would say do it within 6 months. We'll probably give you a lot more than that, but I would kind of use that as the kind of the direct, kind of the variable to fill in that blank. When Vanco automatically populates online offerings to 360 members, does Vanco also automatically populate Ledger with their expenses, such as discount fee for each donation or credit card fees? Yes, Roger, I believe all of that stuff flows through. Can we just stay in the old Ledger until we want to change? Jackie, yes, you can. How do we switch to the new system? So I would go ahead. So if you are a current customer, reach out to the support team and they'll start getting you set up. For those that are not a Ledger customer yet, if you start a free trial or reach out to the information that I have on the screen, especially right now the email, because I don't want our phones blasting while I'm on the webinar, we'll be able to kind of jump on it and get you switched with a really handheld process. How do we initiate the transition when we're ready? Kind of like I've been saying, support team for current customers, software consultants, starting a free trial if you don't currently have the software. Are you doing anything to allow for departments such as trustees to be able to get their expenses? I would believe, Lynn, I might need more information on that. I would imagine that you'd be able to create a dedicated report of those expenses based on certain criteria. So I think you should be able to do that if I understand it. Yes, you can export to Excel. Will payroll cost extra? Is that included with the Ledger price? So we don't offer payroll solutions because it is incredibly complex with the amount of tax liability. So you really kind of need a dedicated software for that. So there's no additional cost to integrate. And I know some of our competitors actually do charge for integrating. We do not. One price for Ledger, but you'll have to pay if you're paying, Paycor or Paychex, whatever, to use their software. That would be the additional price. But when it comes to merging that into our system, there is no additional price except what you pay to use the base software. will be someone be contacting to start the migration. Gina, no one will be reaching out to you to start that migration for a minute. We might have some emails go out to just kind of remind you that that possibility, that option is available. But for the most part, no, that's going to be very self-driven for the next few months here. Eventually, we're going to want everyone to be in what we're calling new ledger, but right now we don't want to add any additional stress on your churches up until the very last moment. Will you offer the migration service to current ledger? Will you offer the migration service for current ledger to this new one, and approximately how much will it cost? Right now, we do not charge anything for data conversions to ledger. There is no cost. If it's pulling stuff from old ledger, that's free. It's an audit. The system does it yourself. Then it just has some prompts for some other pieces of data. Shepherd staff, the system does it. So it's really streamlined. There's not an additional cost on data conversion for ledger. Currently, I can ignore 360 entries for contributions as I enter deposits will now be automatically entered if I don't want it to be. No, kind of as I was showing you on, I could pull up those lists of pending transactions, or I can choose to not post them. Now it's a manual process. So Julia, I think we're saving you a step. So for everyone else, I jumped into it. So currently I can ignore member 360 entries for contributions as I enter deposits. So it seems like she has a separate process. Will it now be automatically entered into ledger if I don't want it to be? So no, there will be no automatic entry. Will there be online training for setup like we did when we first went from Shepherd staff to ledger? Yes, we have completely revamped all of the onboarding training processes for new customers and current customers. So that's where our support team really shines, and they'll be able to work with you hand in hand. Great question. Is there a cost for the upgrade? So no, going from old ledger to new ledger, completely free. There is absolutely no cost. Did you guys change what we write in the memo? Isn't that what shows up on the check memo? A lot of times this is two different memos. I think there's a description and a memo. We're not changing any information for you. So I think that would just be kind of which field you're putting that information in, Jackie, if I'm understanding you correctly. JD Bachhaus asks, additionally, it appears that I have to sync Vanco in order for it to go through into members. Can this be automated? Yes. The integration from Vanco to members, it's kind of like a one-time setup for your givers and funds to link them. After you've linked them, it's always going to be automated. If you add a new giver, a new fund, etc., you will have to do a setup for them individually. But again, after that point, all automatic. How do we initiate the change if we do have a ledger currently? Reach out to the support team and they'll get you started. How to learn the cost to migrate to the new system. If you currently pay for ledger, there is no additional cost. If they currently have a Church360 account and not ledger, they will need CTS. Okay, yeah. So Dave, one of our software consultants, I thought it was a question. Dave, if they have a current Church360 account and not ledger, they will need CTS to open up a trial account for ledger so that their ledger account can be integrated with their proper Church360 account. So I think Dave's just encouraging those that might already have an account, just go ahead and start a free trial, and that'll create the path for the migration to take place. And from there, it's really streamlined. Barb asked, will the new ledger cost more? It's not going to cost more this year. We'll probably do a price increase next year. It'll be relatively minimal, but right now is the best time to get on because then you're locked in for the price for the year. If a batch of offerings is entered into members, is the import to Ledger automatic? Do you have the option to review, edit it before accepting it into Ledger? Yes. So I believe I showed that process, and I'd be happy to kind of re-show it. So if I can get this up real quick. I'm really passionate about how smooth this is. So Brian, for your question, so I'll be back here. So I'm in the offering section and I jump down in members and I click in, right? You see this button? This is the post to Ledger. So this is kind of the first catch. So if there's anything that needs to be edited, I would do it now, right? Because then I can post it to Ledger, right? Now I'm sending it over to that side of the system. I jump over to Ledger. I have another pending transaction. So I believe it was maybe this one, this new one. So I can either delete it and it will undo that posting process, or I can accept it. So that's the accept button. And then I have to kind of tell it where it's going, etc. I can divide it into multiple asset accounts. So this is the mission fund. And then I'm going to do the, do I have a general fund? So then we're just going to do unrestricted and then add the date. That should be everything. Line item account needs to be greater. Okay, well, I'm getting into the weeds, and obviously, I need to go through more training. Okay, will this webinar be available? I had to step away for a moment. Totally, Barb. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of, once we're done today, we're going to kind of go through this. We're going to get it uploaded to YouTube, and then we're going to get it into our system and send out a link to everybody. Typically, it takes a day or two for all of that to be done, but it is a big priority for us to get it to everyone as soon as humanly possible. If I transfer from Shepherd staff, do I get credit for my unused membership? Yes, you do. We do. If you only got like 3 days left, then no in your membership year. But if you have months and months left, yeah, we totally credit that. We don't want to, create unnecessary costs. We have to charge for all the work that we do to create these awesome products. But no, there is totally, and just ask your software consultant about that when he's helping you with the process to make that purchase. They will totally, we totally credit customers all the time coming from Shepherd staff if they have an active support subscription. Will future pricing of Ledger and members combined? Kenneth, you're asking questions I can't talk about. It's something that we're thinking about of just, hey, what's the future of this product? Right now, we have discounts for Ledger if you have one or more 360 products. That if you want the discount immediately, that's the right way to go about it. That being said, I think there could be a future, especially as more improvements come out. I would encourage everyone to pay close attention to members. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff coming out over the next year. We're really going to try to have incremental feature deliveries now that this big project with Ledger is done. So maybe sometime in the future, we might change how we're pricing. Right now, there are no plans for that. And so what you see is what you get. I hope you're happy. Is there a way to set transactions to autofill from previous transactions? I believe so. I think that would be a recurring transaction. If not, that would be a support question. Roger, will Ledger allow data import from Quicken? I'm actually not familiar with Quicken, Roger. I'd be really curious to understand more of what that is. If it's like QuickBooks, we are looking at developing a way to easily move your information from QuickBooks to Ledger. We're just not there yet. It's going to be a big priority for us, but we're not at the point where we can say when it's going to be released. Can we set up new Ledger and run it simultaneously with existing Ledger? Barbara, yes, you can. I would encourage you that data migration goes one way. So you can't start a new ledger, right, using data from old ledger, make changes on new ledger, and have that information flow back, right? So if you make changes in old ledger and you want those in new ledger, you'd have to work with our team to wipe your data and redo the migration process. It's pretty easy. I've done it myself a few times, and if I can do it, anyone can. That being said, the wiping process we do on our side because we don't want to have an accident of someone deleting their data unnecessarily. So Barbara, that would be the one thing I caution you, but you can totally, while you're a current customer of existing ledger, you can set up this new ledger environment and start playing with it, even from pulling your data in so you have real stuff to examine. Totally. Brian asks, if a batch of offerings is entered in members, is the import to ledger automatic? No, it's not automatic. I've been going all over the place with questions. I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Got a new question? If I correct a deposit in the past, will the correction flow to the ledger? Yes, it will. Roxanne, that's a great question. She asked if, when you make edits to transactions, whether it's a deposit or a journal entry, etc., like will that flow into the general ledger? It totally will. You will also be able to see the change in the event log. So don't try anything. What else do we have here? I hope I've answered everybody. I've never had a webinar with this many questions, which is awesome. And I'm going to be here as long as you need me. Y'all are my priority for today. So please, if you have more questions, just keep throwing them in. I will do my best. I feel like I've gotten to everything. If I have missed your question, if you could resubmit it, that would be incredibly helpful. Will reconciling work the same? Yes, it will. It's going to be right in the new place, but yeah, it's the exact same way that it was before, as I understand it. Does finance module of Shepherd Staff fully import? Yes, it does. Do you need to convert at a month? Oh, okay. Yeah, I do believe I missed this. Tammy asked, do you need to convert at a month end closing, or can you convert just any old day? Any old day. Yeah, we don't. You can convert, and your billing might change. So what's it called? This is just kind of a general business practice that we do to help churches a little bit more. So like if you start your subscription on the 16th, we won't bill you until like the first of the next month, or like your subscription will be due. So like next year. So if you started on January 17th, your bill will become due on February 1st the following year if you get an annual subscription. So there you go, Tammy. All right, Barbara. Hey, thank you for saying thank you. I hope this has been valuable. Have a great day. The trial ledger uses what data? So Kenneth, it can use new ledger can use current ledger data if you have it. It could use Shepherd Staff data if you have it, or you could start it fresh with no other data in it. Can you search a vendor to see what invoices you have paid this year? Yes, you can. So let me pull up a search, and then we're going to search payees. Can I just do all of them? No. Let's do electric, because I thought that was one. No, I'm crazy. I have one. It would be helpful if I knew where they were. No, it would be. You can totally do it. Okay, so what if I pull this? If I look at Payees. Okay, maybe we got something for Kent. Okay, so then search. Do we have something to Kent? Yes. So, oh, that's just showing him. So if I click him, what do I? Did that not work? Or do I just not know what I'm doing? I probably don't know what I'm doing. Let's try. I know for a fact AT&T is one. Is it spaces? I always get this. Internet. There we go. So here you can see everything being pulled up from AT&T Uverse, and then I can pull this up and I can see everything that they've paid. So then I can even generate a summary report of the calendar year of everything that's paid. Are you going to be able to reconcile a credit card account? I do believe so, but I'm not 100% sure, Martin. So Annie, I hope that showed you kind of what you were looking at. And Jonas, I'm still confused. If we already have Ledger, would you recommend moving our info to the new Ledger now or creating a trial account? If we are moving, do we call the sales or the support number? I would recommend just start a trial. That would probably be the best way to do it. I would recommend starting a trial first. I want to make sure you understand the new software before you just kind of make that big switch. I would then call the support line. Okay. So, what other questions can I answer? Let's see here. So there we go. That's what I was missing. I can see everything here. So then just kind of jump out. There. Really neat. Cool. All right, well, I will sit here for a little bit longer. If there is any other questions, like right now, which is the support line? The support line, because I don't have it memorized, Joan. Oh, Dave's coming in, saving the day. The support line is 1-800-346-6120. Also, if you're on our main website, you can scroll down to the bottom and it's right there. You can see support. Joan, I hope that answered your question. Dave also being very helpful in the questions. He's included support's email, support@cts.cph.org. Does this require all deposits to go to the same income account or go to an income account? Yes, I would think so. But that would be a question, Barb, for our software consultants or support. I do not know. I would think it would go to an income account because it would be income. Again, this is where I'm not an accounting professional. Happy to answer any other questions if I'm able to. So does this require deposits to go to an income account? Rod Kiles from our support team, he just jumped in. It does not require it. So there you go. There you go. You're welcome, Barb. We have a full team here on today. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being with us today. I'm going to stick on a little bit longer for any kind of final questions. But those of you that feel like you've gotten the full impression of what New Ledger is, I really encourage you to start a trial, and our teams will be at the ready to support you however we can. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end it for everyone. Take care and have a great rest of your day. God's blessings.